Hey, Max from Abstract Automation here. Zoho CRM just announced some big improvements to the timeline feature. I have early access. It will hit your CRM come January. Let's break it down. So the timeline area in Zoho CRM gives you a kind of audit trail on any record. So when you're looking at a contact's timeline, you can see anything that's happened with that contact in the CRM. A note has been added, an email has been sent, a field has been updated. And up until now, that timeline was only keeping a 6-month historical window. And so it was a little limiting, right? Zoho has increased that 6 months to now 3 years. So it's a pretty significant increase. This is a early access that I have in my own Zoho CRM, and Zoho says that customers should expect to see this change in their CRM come January. But they didn't just stop at increasing the length of the history. They added a few nice improvements to the timeline as well. So first of all, they've added some color changes, so there's some indicators such as when an email has been opened versus sent and those sorts of things. So there's a few little minor changes there. Also, as far as email goes, you'll be able to see the timeline of that specific email. So you'll see the date that that email was sent and when it was opened. So there's a little nice things there. They've also included color coding for any pick list fields that you've color coded. So for example, this field here where a status of a contact has changed from active versus inactive in my system, I have those color coded green and red, and those color codes now exist in the timeline. But another really big improvement is a filter option at the top. So now what you can do is if you're looking for something specific, you don't have to cull and look through and scroll through 3 years or 6 months or 3 years worth of timeline information. You can filter the timeline by note entries, tasks completed, calls, emails, what module that timeline entry is related to. You can isolate the filter or the timeline per user. You can also set a specific date range or time period, and you can also limit your view or filter your view by the how that timeline event got created. Was it by manually by a user? Did a workflow end up doing the action or a blueprint or whatever? And so you can use these filters and apply those filters to limit your view. One last thing that I want to point out to you that's pretty cool is they've also added the ability to add a note to the record within the context of the timeline entry. So for example, what I mean by that is, let's say here I set this contact in my database from active to inactive. I can come to the timeline and add a note entry there under this placed, and what this will do is the note will go into the regular notes area. However, it's associated with this timeline event. And so when you come back to this record later and you look at your notes section, you will see the timeline event there in the header of the note, and you can then click on that timeline entry and it will jump to that spot in your timeline. So it really helps to give you some context as far as why did that entry take place or what happened with this contact or with this lead. And it's just a really nice feature. There's some additional improvements that are coming that Zoho also announced. They didn't release a date yet, but beyond these features that I just went through, they are going to allow you to download from, instead of just 3 years, they will allow you to download 10 years worth of timeline information. So what that means is on the screen, when you're looking at the record, you'll see up to 3 years. However, if you want to download a full history, I would assume it would be like a CSV file or something, you'll be able to pull 10 full years of history on any record. Now, they haven't really talked about the impact of your storage and that sort of thing, so that's a little bit wait and see. But they've also added some improvements to the audit log in CRM, which is sort of like a related feature. And they will also carry over the timeline when a lead is converted to a contact. That's always been a big complaint. Somebody's working the lead for a long time, and then they convert the lead to a contact, and that timeline history sort of disappears, right? So they're going to work that into some new releases in the future. And then also, this is a big one too, being able to read the actual emails inside of the timeline. That is going to be awesome, because right now what you have to do is you find what you're looking for in the timeline, and then you have to like go over to the email section and find the email in there if you really need to read the actual content. So anyway, that's it for today. I hope they release this soon, because this is a really, really nice enhancement that they've introduced.